Welcome to the Frosty Drew Observatory and Science Center live stream of the occultation of Venus. We are currently on site waiting for clouds to clear out. Unfortunately, we have a lot of clouds on site that weren't forecast for today. Go National Weather Service. And we don't even have an object to focus on at the moment due to the clouds. We're going to hope that things clear out in time. We still have a few more minutes before the occultation starts. If you actually are under a clear sky where you are right now, you have like binoculars or something, you may actually get a decent view of the occultation. You can actually see it naked eye. If you look up in the sky to the eastern side of the sky from the moon, you'll be able to see like right on the edge of where the moon's edge would be. So it's going to be in a crescent, so you're not going to see that part of the moon. It looks like there's a little white star there, and that's Venus. Right around, well, at least for our location, around 3:53 is when Venus is going to drop behind the moon. And then in about an hour and maybe 10 minutes, hour and 15 minutes later, it'll re-emerge on the western side of the moon from our point of view. So during the live stream today, we're going to be offering periodic commentary. We'll be showing images when we can of the object of Venus and the moon and anything else that might be visible. And then after the occultation begins and just the moon is in view, we'll probably leave the live stream to just kind of run on its own without too much commentary. It's kind of, we find it annoying when we're watching a commentary and people just keep talking and talking and talking and talking. So we'll kind of let the moon speak for itself. And then right around the time occultation comes to an end and Venus is about to re-emerge, we'll come back on and start talking a little bit more about what you're seeing. For a little bit of background, an occultation occurs when an object that is closer to Earth than something further away, generally along the ecliptic in the sky, will appear to overtake an object that's further away. Most occultations involve the moon. We do occasionally have occultations of an asteroid occulting a star. Sometimes you get it's possible that you can have Mars could like occult Regulus or stars along the ecliptic, but the vast majority of the time occultations come down to the moon. And it's because the moon's pretty close. The moon moves within 5.1 degrees of the ecliptic. The ecliptic is the path that the sun takes across the sky and also represents the plane of the solar system. If you're looking at that path, you have a series of stars. The planets will be around that area. And when the moon ends up closer to the ecliptic itself, so you can, like I said, it can be anywhere from 5.1 degrees above or below the ecliptic. Objects along the ecliptic, like today's occurrence with Venus, the moon will pass in between our view of the further object. And it looks like it's overtaking it, or sometimes you can call it like eclipsing it. If you think about a solar eclipse, that's also an occultation involving the moon. In this case, it's just occulting the sun. The occultation of Venus does happen occasionally. We saw one back in 2015 here at Frosty Drew. And then back in, I think it was 2023, 2024, we had an occultation of Mars that was involving the moon that we live streamed here. You can find all of these on our YouTube channel. I'm going to step off for a little bit and see if we can't work on finding a view. And hopefully we have something in a little bit. But as of right now, we are clouded out. Okay, so this is Scott at Frosty Drew. You're tuning in to the Frosty Drew Observatory live stream of the Lunar Occultation of Venus. Currently, the sky is just starting to clear out, and the moon is back in view, and we're about roughly 10 minutes away from re-emergence of Venus. Now, when Venus is re-emerges from behind the moon, it's going to look like a little star popping out to the side. We'll get a kind of zoom in when we start seeing that happening, get a good view of it, and we'll see if we could spot the phase. It looks like we'll be okay for clouds at this point, for at least the outset, so we'll be happy about that. Stay tuned. All right, this is Scott McNeil, and you are tuned in to the Frosty Drew Observatory and Science Center live stream of the occultation of Venus. And right now, we are about 3 minutes, 2.5 to 3 minutes away from the re-emergence of Venus from behind the moon. In our view here, we have the telescope is inverting our view horizontally or vertically. And as a result, Venus would appear to the naked eye to re-emerge from the top right side of the moon. In our case, we're going to see it from what looks like the bottom right side. And we're zoomed in a little bit here, but we're going to zoom out to see the whole moon. And then from there, we're going to zoom in to actually see if we can't catch that re-emergence. There we go. Now, keep in mind, again, occultations like this, these events occur when a closer object to Earth appears to overtake an object that is further away from the planet. Most occultations involve the moon, or the most common occultations do, because the moon is large enough from our point of view to easily occult stars and planets occasionally, like today. Though we have seen occultations in the past where an asteroid will occult a star, or a planet will occult a star, and so forth. What's happening today is the moon is passing closer to the ecliptic. The ecliptic is the path that the sun takes across the sky and also represents the plane of the solar system. When we think about the moon, Earth's moon doesn't orbit Earth around the equator. It orbits Earth aligned to the ecliptic or the plane of the solar system. And it's about 5.1 degrees inclined to the ecliptic, which means that it could be anywhere within 5.1 degrees below the ecliptic or 5.1 degrees above the ecliptic. During the times that it's on, like right on the ecliptic or within a couple of degrees of the ecliptic, is when we start seeing occultations occur. And Venus, which is the primary planet in the solar system, will be found along the ecliptic, just like all the other primary planets, is in the path of today's moon. Now, when you think about the moon as well, a lot of times you think about the moon orbiting the Earth from the west to the east to the west, because as we see the moon on a daily basis, it looks like it's moving westward with the rest of the sky. But that's just Earth spinning on its axis. It does that. The moon does orbit the Earth in a prograde motion, which is counterclockwise. So the moon actually moves from the east to the west, for the west to the eastern sky. And you can see this during occultations, during eclipses, which is another form of an occultation, just involving the sun. And you can see them daily. If you take a look at where the position of the moon is tonight as it relates to background stars in the sky, and then take a look tomorrow night, you'll notice that the moon is about 13 degrees more eastward than it was today. I mean, an interesting little experiment. Now, we're any minute now, we're expecting to see Venus reemerge from behind the moon. At this point, we're just kind of waiting for that. And being that it's in the daytime sky, it could definitely be a tricky view. Now, we're tracking Venus, which is why we're kind of in the middle of the moon. I'm going to move this over just a little bit to get more of the moon in our view. All right, there it is on the bottom, right there. You see that down there on the bottom right here? That is Venus re-emerging. That is, zoom in on that there. You can see Venus coming out from right behind the moon. Right here. Bring our exposure down a little bit so we can catch the phase. And you can somewhat see the phase. You can see that it's a gibbous. We're going to overexpose it a little bit to get it popping back out here. And then see if we can't get... There you go. You can see the phase pretty good right there. All right. So I'm going to zoom out real quick, and we're going to capture a little bit of data here. All right. Get a quick video. Frames. All right, let that run for a minute. Right now, we're just doing a quick capture of Venus. And that's an occultation. In this case, is actually on the top side of the moon, the top, but then the way our telescope figure, the image is flipped vertically, and it looks like the bottom of the moon. If you have a naked Venus popping out, I can see it right now on the top right. You can see it naked eye.
Yeah, I know. See it naked eye.
All right, so we got a little bit of data collection on it. We'll do a little bit of a motion here. Now, Venus is going to reach, I believe, maximum elongation, which is when it's at its highest point in our evening sky. I believe it is going to be in July. And then through the summer, we're going to have really excellent views of Venus here at Frosty Drew in the evening. And during the day, too, we do a lot of daytime observations of Venus as well. You can see it right here. Let's see if we can bring the exposure down a little bit and a little bit better view of that phase. There we go. You can see it looks like a gibbous phase. And Venus is slowly working its way over towards its third quarter. It'll be there in a couple days. I'm trying to play with the focus here. So we did a lot of our focusing when we were in clouds. There we go. So that's a pretty good view right there of Venus. Now, we didn't set up the higher magnification telescope today because we didn't want to be fighting with the clouds and then end up not being able to do anything. So we only set this one telescope up. There we go. And there's a pretty good view of Venus's phase right there. Now we're going to zoom back out. We're going to increase the exposure a little bit. Get the moon back into view. And we're going to wrap up the live stream in a couple minutes, probably about another 5 minutes. We have another occultation that is going to be occurring later this year in October. We'll be seeing the occultation of Jupiter. And in that case, it's going to be, again, the moon is going to occult Jupiter. And about an hour later, we'll see we'll see Jupiter reemerge from the other side of the moon. We will be live streaming that event as well. And unlike the Venus occultation, that event will occur in darkness, which will be a lot easier to see the moon and some of the features on the moon as well, which we're kind of missing out at this eclipse or this occultation. Now, when we said before that an eclipse is also an occultation, when you think about it, the eclipse is the moon is overtaking the sun because the moon during that time period gets kind of close to the eclipse, to the actual ecliptic itself, and will pass in between Earth and the sun visibly. So it is an occultation. We just call it an eclipse. As far as eclipses, we do have a partial solar eclipse happening this August. I believe it is August 12th or 13th, and we will be having an event here at Frosty Drew for it. So you want to visit our website at frostydrew.org/events to find out when that is happening. We're going to let this run for a little bit. You guys can see Venus and the moon spread apart slowly, and I'll jump back on in a couple of minutes to wrap up the live stream. All right, this is Scott McNeil.
Not as bright, not really bright. It's so dim. You need to, you're playing a game, wait till darkness, but before it starts. It will be pretty bright. Probably beautiful tonight.
This is Scott McNeil with Frosty Drew Observatory, and we are observing the occultation of Venus, which is just completed. You'll notice on the view, you can see the moon and you can see Venus in the view. About maybe 10 minutes ago, Venus has emerged from behind the moon, and about an hour and a half ago, Venus had dropped behind the moon. We are just about to wrap up the live stream. I just wanted to kind of note that we're going to be open Friday nights this summer. You can visit our website, frostydrew.org/events, to see our event schedule. Our Friday night events are $5 a person, and we usually cap our events between 150 and 200 visitors. We also offer an event on Saturday nights called Celebrate the Milky Way. We do that once or twice a month, depending on the lunar cycle. We want to find the night that's got our best view of the Milky Way on site. One of the great things about Frosty Drew is that we have very dark skies here, and the Milky Way is very, very visible on those clear, dark nights without the moon. So we host events like that. We'll have an event for the solar eclipse this coming August, and on the same night, or the same day as the eclipse, that night is the peak of the Perseid meteor shower, which will be with the new moon, because that's when the eclipse occurs. So we could have a really great event that night as well. Following that, we have a total lunar eclipse coming up on August, I believe it is 27th. We have International Observe the Moon Night, the second Saturday in September. And then we will be out here again live streaming for the occultation of Jupiter in October. So for those who tuned in today, thanks for sticking the clouds out with us and catching that view. We will be archiving this on our YouTube so you can see it in the future, and we'll just cut it up so it's not an hour of clouds. And we will see you guys soon.